Chapter 7. The Botany Lab was in Halo Hall, in the Science-stallation, where the Starlings' wishology and astrophysics classes, among dozens of others, were held. Those labs, though, were on the lower floors. The Botany Lab took up most of the top floor and had a ceiling made of glass, so the hydrons of plants and flowers growing there had all the sunlight or starlight or moonlight they could want. Naturally, there were specimens from all over Starland. Feather jabbers, mellow mallows, even nomadic druderwomps. Shrub-like knots of glittery branches that were constantly uprooting themselves and lazily rolling around the lab until they got bored and decided to stop and spread their roots, inevitably tripping someone up. The lab was best known, though, for its extensive collection of flora samples from Wishworld. It was the largest collection on Starland, in fact. Generations of wish-granters had brought back everything from Spanish moss to buttercups to fragrant evergreen trees. Scientists were still working to get those to bloom ornaments, the way they did on Wishworld, but so far they'd had no luck. Scarlet's personal favorites were the dandelions, which were like two flowers in one, the second better than the first, a starburst of yellow petals followed by tickly cloud-white fluff. And, best of all, wishers used them to make wishes. Plus, they didn't overwhelm you with that cloying flower smell, which was always such overkill, Scarlet thought. The three Starlings, Scarlet, Vega, and Cassie, entered, and were met by a pair of turquoise-haired technicians in sturdy, star-covered overalls under long, shimmery white lab coats. "Ah, star greetings, Cassie," said one, a short woman with a blue hollow name tag reading Gladiolus Rose. "Oh my stars! You got here quickly! You must have ridden a laser beam!" She clasped her hands and bowed, as was Starland custom. Her partner did the same. He was taller by a moonstone and wore a hard-to-miss star-shaped bandage on his nose. Cassie bowed in return, as did Vega and Scarlet. "We couldn't wait to hear the results of your tests," Cassie told the lab technicians. She nodded to the man. "What happened to you, by the way?" "What? Oh, this?" The man patted his bandaged nose, then turned to his flickering, silver-tinged partner, who guiltily sucked in her cheeks. "Flying flower pot. Funny story." He sighed. "Or, at least it will be, I hope. One star day." "Why don't we show them those flowers?" said his partner. He nodded. "Good idea." "After you, please." She waved him past. "Star salutations, but please, no, after you." They went on like that back and forth until Scarlet couldn't take one more exchange. "Why don't you show us together?" "Great idea," they said in unison. "To the back of the lab. This way." The Starlings followed them down a winding aisle between empty workstations. "Where is everyone?" Vega asked. Gladiolus Rose picked up an uprooted kaleidoscope tree sapling and set it on a counter between a broken beaker and an upside-down microscope. "Most of the botanists decided to go home early yesterday. We stayed to finish this job. The energy in the air was rather tense, you might say. Lots of name-calling, flower pot flinging, energy sapping, I'm afraid. Not much work getting done," said her partner. "Not safely, anyway." Scarlet gazed around at the mess and couldn't help cracking a smile. She could only imagine the scene that must have made it. "That sounds like Piper and me," said Vega. "Until yesterday afternoon." Suddenly, her expression began to change. "When exactly did your fighting stop?" "Almost as soon as we put them behind glass," Gladiolus Rose answered. "When was that?" She turned to her partner. "In the afternoon?" "Indeed it was." Cassie's eyes grew round, and so did Vega's. Scarlet's jaw dropped slightly, too. "Are you saying you think the flowers made you bicker and fight?" asked Vega. "I'm afraid so," the techs said together. "Star apologies." They bowed and laughed. "As you can see," said Gladiolus Rose, "arguing is not in our nature, so as soon as it started we knew that something was tremendously wrong." "The moment we put them behind glass, however," the man said, "the fiery tempers cooled." He pointed to a glass case at the end of the lab. Inside, the Starlings could see Vega and Piper's lavish coral-colored bouquet. Scarlet instantly remembered the flowers, though she'd given them little thought when they showed up in her room. Not surprisingly, Leona had claimed them for her half of the room almost immediately, so Scarlet paid even less attention to them after that. "You were absolutely correct in suspecting those flowers of negative energy," Gladiolus Rose told Cassie as they moved toward the case. "The things are full of it, in fact. The measurements we recorded were frankly floozles off the charts. It's as if each and every flower was grown in negative energy-infused soil." Scarlet scowled and spoke up. "But isn't that impossible? Every bad wish orb is destroyed immediately. That's one of the first things we learn when we get to this school." "Moon and stars. We didn't think negative energy even existed on Starland," said Cassie with a gulp. Scarlet hadn't thought Cassie could look any paler, and yet somehow she did. Gladiolus Rose shook her head. "It doesn't, technically," she said. "What do you mean?" Vega asked. The two lab technicians exchanged grim glances. The tall one cleared his throat. "There have been leaks in the past, from the Bad Wish Containment Center. But that was Hydrongs of star years ago," his partner assured the Starlings. "There have been mix-ups, too. Bad wishes mistaken for good ones at first. But such a thing is exceedingly rare. And by the time the mistake is corrected, almost all the potential negative energy has yet to be released." "Almost?" Vega said. "Almost." The woman nodded. "So yes, it's not beyond the spectrum of possibility for there to be a microjoule in the air, but nowhere near enough to account for the concentrations we're seeing here. It's unprecedented, frankly." She turned to peer into the case. Never before, at least in this lab, have we seen negative plant life half as powerful, or negative, as this. "So what you're saying, then," said Scarlet, "is that this mystery still isn't solved. You don't know where the flowers came from." "Not yet, no. But our tests aren't finished. There are a few more we can do. Hopefully we can identify the exact source of the negative energy, and even pinpoint where the flowers were grown." "How long will it take, do you think?" asked Vega. "I'd say a star day. Maybe 2, 3 at most." Gladiolus Rose shrugged. "It's difficult to say until the rest of the staff returns to work." Her partner gazed around the overturned lab. "We were also hoping to straighten things up a little first. That's one thing about this Wish World dirt. It doesn't seem to clean itself up. It just sits there when it's spilled." "Well, we can help you with that," said Vega matter-of-factly. She looked down at the loose Wish World dirt scattered across the floor. Her eyes narrowed as she focused her energy on gathering the dirt into a pile. As soon as she collected it all, Vega flicked her wrist and lifted it in a steady stream, using her finger to steer it into the nearest flower pot. Scarlet looked over to see Cassie starting to use her energy as well. One by one, on the counter in front of Cassie, overturned plants were popping upright. "Star salutations," said the lab technicians. Vega beamed. "It's the least we can do." "Scarlet? What are you waiting for over there? The faster we clean up this lab, the faster they can run more tests." "Why don't we just zap up some bot maids?" said Scarlet, looking bleakly around the room. She would rather have linked arms with Leona than do that job, even with the help of her energy manipulation. "And where would be the fun in that?" asked Vega brightly, adjusting a tray full of laser bean seedlings just so. Suddenly, she jumped, and so did Cassie. Both Starlings pulled out their star zaps. "Moon and stars!" gasped Cassie. She looked at Vega, who was just closing her device and slipping it back into her fitted coat. "What is it?" asked Scarlet. Cassie hurried over to Scarlet and whispered so the lab technicians wouldn't hear. "Another wish orb's been identified." Only a few faculty besides Lady Stella and Lady Cordial knew of the existence of the Star Darlings, and it was imperative it stay that way. "We have to go to Lady Stella's office, immediately, to find out whose wish this will be." "I'm coming too." Scarlet moved toward the lab door. "Did your star zap go off?" Cassie asked. Scarlet stopped and put her hand on the pocket of her hooded vest. She hadn't felt any vibration. She looked, but she knew the answer was no before she saw the screen. "I'm going anyway." "I don't know." Cassie shook her head. "Lady Stella knows best, and if she didn't summon you, I don't think that you can go." "But I'm a star darling!" "Shh!" Cassie quickly glanced over her shoulder. Luckily, the lab technicians were in the far corner, straightening some crooked hollow screens. "But I am a star darling," Scarlet hissed. "If there's a wish assignment, I should be there." Vega had come over, too. Both she and Cassie took Scarlet's hands. "Patience, Scarlet. If you truly are a star darling, and I certainly don't doubt it, then the stars will realign for you. All in due time," Vega said. Scarlet yanked her hands away and squeezed her lips together tightly. She was close to saying something she just might regret. "We'll let you know what happens," Cassie assured her. "Whatever." Scarlet raised her chin and looked away. She would have liked to see how much patience Vega or Cassie or any other star darling would have were she to trade places with one of them. High above, over the ceiling skylight, a pink cloud the shape of a galliop's head slowly drifted past. She closed her eyes and thought of Wish World, somewhere beyond it, orbiting through space full of wishes. "Keep your stars up," said Vega. She reached out and gave Scarlet's arm a squeeze. "If we see Lady Cordial, we'll ask her about your reports. I'm sure we'll have some good news for you by the time you're done helping here." "Well?" "Starf! Scarlet! Moon and stars!" "You scared the light out of us!" Vega gasped. "Star apologies." Scarlet stepped all the way around the column she'd been standing behind and pulled her hood back from her face. They were in the hall outside Lady Stella's office, where Scarlet had been lurking for a star hour, or quite possibly longer. She could have waited for Vega and Cassie to hollow call or text her, but waiting had never been Scarlet's style. "Why were you hiding?" asked Cassie. "I wasn't hiding. I was just trying to stay out of sight," Scarlet explained. Cassie and Vega wrinkled their glittery foreheads. "Anyway," Scarlet went on, "what happened? Who got the mission? And what did Lady Stella have to say about me? I didn't see Ophelia come out. Have they already told her about the mistake?" Vega's cheeks flashed ever so faintly. Cassie's lips slid beneath her teeth. Scarlet couldn't tell if they looked more like they'd eaten too much Zoomberry cake, or like someone had stolen cake from them. "What's wrong?" Vega's and Cassie's eyes met, and something passed between them. Scarlet felt her glow dim as it did. "Tell me." Vega took a deep breath. The wish orb was Ophelia's. The wish orb was what? The wish orb was Ophelia's, Vega said again, letting her breath out as she did. Wait. So what are you saying? The wish orb was Ophelia's, Cassie patiently repeated. Scarlet's glow returned in a flash, this time hot pink. I get that, she muttered. But are you saying a star darling wish orb chose Ophelia? Are you saying the next star darling mission is hers? Are you saying... Scarlet closed her eyes and opened them slowly. Are you saying Ophelia is going to go to Wish World to grant a wish instead of me? Vega nodded. Or, at least, almost there, Cassie said. Star apologies, Scarlet. For what it's worth, we believed you. But you were wrong, I guess. Vega reached out to touch Scarlet's shoulder, but Scarlet stepped away. I wasn't wrong, she snapped. There was nothing to be wrong about. Scores are scores. I saw what I saw. Tell me, Lady Cordial, what did she have to say? Vega and Cassie responded with shrugs. Not much, said Vega, as usual. She just wished Ophelia lucky stars. That's all? She didn't mention the holo records? Did she at least look star-prized? Everyone looked star-prized, said Vega. Especially Ophelia, Cassie agreed. Actually, Lady Cordial probably looked the least star-prized, added Vega. Maybe she'd already looked into your theory, Scarlet, and all the holo records, and didn't see what you think you saw. No one's saying you're lying, Scarlet, or that we were happy to see you go. And we're definitely not saying there aren't weird things going on. But I don't think your leaving the Star Darlings is one, added Vega. You can still help us get to the bottom of the flower mystery, said Cassie brightly. Flowers? Are you shooting my stars? I don't give a crater about your flower mystery, Scarlet fired back. I hope whoever sent them sends you a hydrong more, in fact.